The dining room smelled like roasted lamb and rosemary. The long table sparkled under a chandelier, filled with glassware, linen napkins, and polished silverware. Laughter came from the kitchen and living room, bouncing off the marble floors and tall windows. Everyone looked perfect, dressed in soft cashmere, shining jewelry, and neat hairstyle. The monthly family dinner was in full swing. The front door opened quietly. Elise stepped in, a little damp from the rain outside. She brushed her hair back and looked around, unsure if she should call out. No one greeted her. She took a breath and moved toward the dining room, holding a bottle of wine in a paper bag. "Elise," Nina said, noticing her first, her voice sharp with fake cheer. "You made it." "Hi," Elise replied softly, setting the wine down on a side table. Nina's eyes landed on the bag. "I hope that's store-bought wine this time, not like the interesting one you brought last time." She laughed, loud and light. "Remember that, Victor? That weird red that tasted like vinegar?" Victor chuckled from across the table. "Yeah, good times." Everyone laughed. Elise didn't. She stood still, her coat still on. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes gave away a flicker of pain. Her hand brushed the wine bag, unsure whether to pick it up again or just leave. Only one person didn't join the laughter. Thomas, her father, sat quietly at the end of the table. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for a glass of water. His eyes met Elise's, and for a brief second, he gave her a soft nod. No smile, no words, just understanding. Elise gave the tiniest nod back. She took off her coat and found her seat, the one always left for her, at the far end, near the kitchen, not beside her sibling, not close to her mother. She folded her hands on her lap and waited. "Dinner's almost ready," Carla called from the kitchen. "Let's not start any deep conversations, please. Keep it light. It's a family night." Elise stared at the center of the table. The perfect flowers, the shining dishes, the neat candles. Everything looked beautiful. Everything felt cold. No one knew that she'd skipped lunch to afford this wine. No one knew that her paycheck had gone, again, to cover someone else's medical bills. No one knew the truth, and no one had ever asked. Elise was 34 and lived alone in a small apartment above a bookstore. Her job was quiet, but meaningful. She worked in community mental health, helping people with depression, trauma, and addiction. She was good at listening. She was calm, patient, and kind. Most days, she stayed late at work, not because she had to, but because she cared. She wasn't rich, not even close, but she made her own way. She hadn't taken a dollar from her family since she was 22. Back then, she had just finished college. Everyone expected her to go to law school and join the family business, but she didn't. She wanted to do something that felt real. When she told her mother she wanted to be a social worker, Carla didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just said, "Then don't expect help from us." And that was it. Elise packed her bags a week later and moved out. There had been an argument, a terrible one, but no one ever brought it up again. It was like the family decided to erase it from their memories. But Elise remembered every word. Since then, she had been on her own. She learned how to live with less. She worked nights at a diner during graduate school, took the bus everywhere, and rented small places with peeling paint and loud neighbors. She learned how to stretch money, how to say no, how to stay quiet even when it hurt. Her mother, Carla, never apologized. She liked things neat and polished. She smiled for pictures, hosted parties with soft music and fresh flowers, and made sure her children wore the right clothes and said the right things. Underneath the calm voice and gentle smiles, she had sharp edges. She didn't scream, she shamed. Victor, the oldest, ran the family business now. He wore tailored suits and thought anyone who worked a job that didn't make money was wasting their life. He always talked too loud at dinner, always acted like he was the smartest person in the room. Nina, the middle child, lived in a big house with her wealthy husband and 2 kids. She never worked a day in her life, but always talked like she knew how the world worked. Everything about her was expensive: her perfume, her nails, her purse. She posted smiling family photos online every week. Elise didn't fit in. Only Thomas, their father, still felt real, but he was getting worse. He had been diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's 2 years ago. His hands trembled. His speech sometimes slowed. He got confused more often now, and some days he couldn't get out of bed without help. Carla didn't want anyone to know. She hated the idea of pity or weakness. She told the rest of the family that it was just a little stiffness, and paid for basic care, nothing more. But Elise saw what was really happening. She started visiting him regularly, at first just once a week, then twice, then every other day. And when she saw that the care he was getting wasn't enough, when she realized her father was scared and confused and being left alone too often, she stepped in. Quietly, without telling anyone, Elise started paying for a private nurse. She cut her own expenses. She skipped dinners out. She stopped replacing old clothes. She picked up extra shifts. She did whatever she had to. Every month, she sent the payment herself. Carla never asked where the nurse came from, and Elise never offered the truth. She didn't do it for thanks. She did it because he needed someone. Now, at every family dinner, Elise sat in silence while her mother smiled and her siblings talked about vacations, business deals and new cars. No one ever asked about her life. They didn't want to know, and Elise had learned not to tell. Dinner was almost over. Plates were half empty, and the last of the wine was being poured. Laughter still floated around the table, but Elise had grown quiet. She had been watching her father. His hands shook more than usual tonight. He looked pale, his back was hunched, and he kept blinking like the lights were too bright. No one else seemed to notice. Elise leaned toward her mother. Her voice was low and gentle. "Mum, I think I should take Dad home. He looks tired." Carla didn't even turn her head. "He's fine. He doesn't look fine," Elise said, firmer this time. "He's struggling." Carla sighed and waved her hand. "He's had a long day, that's all." Thomas tried to lift his glass, but spilled a little water. His fingers couldn't grip the stem properly. He gave a small, embarrassed smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Elise sat up straighter. "This isn't just a long day. He needs to rest. He's not fine. He hasn't been fine." The room fell quiet. The air changed. Everyone stopped moving. Carla's eyes narrowed. "What is this about, Elise?" "It's about him. He's getting worse. And you pretend nothing is wrong. You don't even check on him." Carla's voice rose. "Don't start this again. You're being dramatic, like always." "I'm not," Elise said, her voice shaking now. "You haven't seen him struggle to walk. You haven't seen him fall. I have. I've been there." Victor leaned forward. "Okay, calm down." "No," Elise said, her hands on the table. "You all sit here pretending everything's perfect, and I've been paying for his care for the last 14 months. Every nurse visit, every appointment. I paid for it. Not Mom. Me." No one spoke. Nina blinked. "Wait. What?" Carla's face turned red. "That's ridiculous. Are we supposed to believe someone who can't afford a decent car is paying for private care?" Elise stared at her. "I sold my car 3 months ago to keep paying for it. You never asked why." Victor frowned. "But why would you?" "Because someone had to," Elise said. Her voice broke a little, but she didn't look away. "Because he needed help, and I couldn't watch him suffer." Carla pushed her chair back. "You're making this about you. Again. Just trying to turn everyone against me." Thomas cleared his throat. Slowly, carefully, he spoke. "It's true. Elise paid for everything." His voice was quiet, but clear. Carla froze. Nina's mouth dropped open. Victor looked away. Thomas turned to Elise and whispered, "Thank you." No one laughed now. No one moved. The room was full of things that had never been said. The room stayed silent for a long moment after Thomas spoke. Elise kept her eyes on her plate, heart pounding, hands clenched under the table. She didn't want to cry. Not here. Finally, Nina broke the silence. "Okay, well, maybe you helped a little, but you make it sound like we just abandoned him." Victor leaned back, arms crossed. "If this is true, why didn't you say anything before now?" "I didn't do it to prove anything," Elise said, her voice low but steady. "I did it because he needed help. Someone had to." Carla stood, picking up her wine glass. Her mouth was tight, her voice sharp. "Of course you did. Always the martyr, always the victim. You just can't stand not being the center of attention." Elise looked up at her. "That's not true. I didn't even want to come tonight." Carla laughed once, bitter and cold. "Then why are you here? To make a scene? To embarrass your family in front of your father?" "I came because I still care," Elise said more quietly, "even when you made it clear you didn't want me around." "Oh, please," Carla snapped. "You've always been dramatic. You walked out on us. I walked out because you gave me no choice." Nina spoke again, waving her hand like she wanted to end it. "Can we not turn this into some therapy session? We're all tired." Elise blinked slowly. "You all think this is just about tonight, don't you?" Victor frowned. "Isn't it?" "No," Elise said. She looked down at the table, then back at them. "This started years ago, when I told Mom I didn't want to be a lawyer, when I said I wanted to work in mental health. She said I was throwing my life away. Then she cut me off. That's not how I remember it, Carla said quickly. You told me, if you don't want to follow the plan, then you don't get the support. And I didn't, Elise said. No money, no help, nothing. You made your choices, Carla said, lifting her chin. And we made ours. I had to work 3 jobs just to finish my degree, Elise said. You all went on with your lives like I didn't exist. Victor shifted in his seat. You could have come back, reached out. I tried, Elise said. Her voice shook now. Once. I came home for Christmas that year. Mum made a joke about me working at a diner. Everyone laughed, so I left. No one replied. Thomas stared at his hands. Nina played with her phone screen. Carla looked like stone. I never wanted anything from you, Elise said, her voice quieter now. Not money, not praise. But when I saw Dad getting worse, and no one else was helping, I couldn't just sit by. Victor looked up at her. So you've really been paying? Every month? Elise nodded. Yes. Why didn't you ask for help? Would you have believed me? She asked. He didn't answer. Elise stood up. I think I've said enough. She walked out of the room. No one followed her. Outside, the air was cool and sharp. She breathed it in and let herself cry for just a moment, then wiped her face and started her car. The drive home was quiet. Her apartment was small but clean. She locked the door behind her, kicked off her shoes, and sat on the edge of the couch. Her chest felt heavy, not from sadness, from years of holding things in. A few hours later, there was a knock on her door. She didn't answer right away, but the knock came again, softer this time. She opened it slowly and saw Victor standing there. His hands were in his pocket. He looked unsure for the first time in years. Can I come in? He asked. She stepped aside. He didn't sit, just stood near the window looking around. You live here? Yes, he nodded. It's nice, quiet. Elise folded her arms. Why are you here? He didn't look at her. I wanted to tell you something. About the trust fund. What trust fund? Elise asked. He swallowed. The one Grandpa left for you. For college. You never got it because Mom took it. Elise felt something cold move through her. What? She said you didn't deserve it after the fight. She split it between me and Nina. We didn't know it was meant just for you. Not until later. Elise stared at him. You knew. I found out a few years ago. I didn't know what to do. I thought maybe you didn't want it. She laughed once, soft and bitter. I lived off instant noodles for 2 years. I slept on a mattress on the floor. And you think I didn't want it? I'm sorry, he said. I should have told you. She sat down. Her voice was flat. You all let me believe I wasn't worth helping, like I chose to fail. Victor looked down. We didn't know what you were going through. No, she said. You didn't care to know. He stood there a while longer, then said, if there's anything I can do now. There isn't, Elise said, but thank you for telling me. He nodded, slowly, then left. When the door closed, Elise sat in silence. She wasn't angry anymore, just tired. The next day, Elise returned to the family house. She didn't come alone. Her father, Thomas, walked slowly beside her, leaning on a cane. She had helped him dress warmly, and now she held his arm as they stepped inside. The living room was quiet when they entered. Carla was sitting by the window reading a magazine. Nina and Victor were both there too, looking unsure, like they didn't know what to expect. When Carla saw them, she raised her eyebrows. Back so soon? Elise didn't smile. We need to talk. Carla gave a short laugh. More drama? No, Elise said. Just the truth. She helped Thomas sit down on the couch, then stood beside him. I want everyone to hear this, Elise said, looking at each of them. Because I've carried this alone for too long. Carla crossed her arms. What are you talking about now? I know why you turned on me, Elise said. Why you cut me off. Why you treated me like I didn't belong. Carla's face stiffened. You never forgave me for what happened when I was 16, Elise said. For telling the truth about Dad's affair. Nina sat up straighter. What? Elise nodded slowly. I overheard a phone call. I asked Dad about it, and he broke down. I told Mom because I didn't know what else to do. Victor looked at Thomas, then back at Carla. You knew? Carla stood up now, her voice sharp. She had no right. She was a child, and she destroyed everything. I didn't destroy anything, Elise said, her voice rising. I told the truth. It wasn't perfect, and I couldn't pretend it was. You're the one who couldn't handle it. You embarrassed this family, Carla shouted. You tore it apart. Do you know what people would have said if they found out? I had to fix everything while you played the victim. I was 16, Elise said, her eyes full of pain. You punished me because I didn't lie for you. You made me feel like I ruined our family, but I didn't. Pretending everything was fine, while I was hurting, While Dad was sick, while you ignored all of it, that is what ruined it. Carla's hands were shaking now. You think you're better than us? You think, just because you work with poor people and pay some hospital bills, you're some kind of saint? No, Elise said, her voice calm now. I just refuse to keep pretending. The room was heavy with silence. Then Thomas slowly looked up. Elise is right, he said. His voice was rough, but clear. She'd told the truth. I should have admitted it back then, but I was afraid. I let her take the blame. Carla turned toward him. Don't do this. Thomas shook his head. You blamed her to protect yourself, and I let it happen. I was weak. He looked at Elise. I'm sorry. Elise knelt down beside him and held his hand. Carla stood there, stunned. Victor leaned forward. Is that why she never got her trust fund? Carla didn't answer. Nina whispered, Mom? Carla looked around at them all, then walked out of the room without another word. No one followed her. They sat in silence. For the first time, the truth was out, and no one could pretend anymore. After Carla left the room, no one spoke for a while. The weight of the truth hung in the air. Elise sat beside Thomas, holding his hand. She felt tired but also strangely calm. Victor cleared his throat. Elise, I'm sorry. Nina nodded slowly. Me too. We didn't know everything. We judged you. Elise looked at them. I know, and I'm not ready to forgive all of it yet, but I do want peace. I need space. They both nodded again. There was nothing more to say. Later that week, Thomas moved into Elise's apartment. It wasn't big, but it was warm and filled with quiet. She made space for his books, his medicine, and a comfortable chair by the window. They shared dinners, took walks when he felt strong, and spoke openly for the first time in years. Elise no longer felt ashamed of how she lived. Her small apartment, her used car, her work, they all came from her own strength. She had built a life, even when no one had helped her. And now, she was proud of it. She deleted the family group chat one night without thinking twice. No more fake smiles. No more pretending everything was fine. It was time to live on her own terms. She also made a call to a local therapist and started weekly sessions. For the first time, she spoke about the years of silence, the betrayal, the loneliness, and how hard she had worked to stay standing. It hurt, but it also helped. A few weeks later, Elise saw a job posting, a director-level role at a non-profit that worked with families in crisis. It felt right. She applied without overthinking it. 2 weeks after the interview, she got the call. You got it, the woman on the other end said. We'd love to have you. Elise smiled, not big and dramatic, just enough to feel the warmth of it inside. She hung up the phone and looked out the window. Thomas was sitting in his chair, dozing lightly, a blanket over his legs. Elise stood quietly, watching the light fall across the room. She had made it through the fire, and now, at last, she was free. The evening was quiet. A soft breeze came through the open window, moving the curtains gently. The sky outside was turning orange as the sun went down. Elise sat on the couch with a cup of tea in her hands. Thomas was in his chair beside her, a light blanket over his knees. He looked tired, but peaceful. He turned to her slowly. I've been thinking, he said, about everything. Elise looked at him and nodded. I failed you, he said. I should have protected you. I should have spoken up when your mother blamed you. I didn't. And still, you stayed. You helped me. You never gave up on me. Elise's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. She placed her cup down and reached for his hand. You're my father, she said softly. You made mistakes, but you're also the reason I still believe some things are worth saving. Thomas's lips trembled. He gave her hand a squeeze. I'm proud of you, Elise. I don't say it enough, but I am. They sat together in silence, holding hands, watching the light fade. No loud words, no big moments, just warmth, just truth, and finally, peace. Thank you so much for reading all the way through. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, share, leave a comment, and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. See you next time. Bye.